Jimmy Kimmel was doing it. He was doing it too.
Yeah, he was doing it too.
Yeah. No, he was being accused of joking about it too.
So they were upset at him, even though he was attacking the appropriate person. He was doing it in a manner which is also construed as being transphobic. Like they were saying that his tweet is transphobic. He's a comic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, he used to host the Man Show. I mean, he's done some pretty outrageous back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, for hee-hees and haw-haws.
No, that's a good joke on top of a good joke.
Yeah, it's a good joke. Funny thing to say. He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist thought bubble. He is in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood.
Joe Rogan isn't holding back in his critique of Jimmy Kimmel's latest fiasco. He called out the late-night host for harshly attacking MAGA without checking the facts, taking aim at how late-night comedy has become a vehicle for socialist messaging. But Rogan didn't stop at criticism. He tore the segment apart completely. Brace yourself because this one's going to be intense.
Self-censorship and the idea of being a more empathetic person is a good thing, right? But as long as it's reasonable. But the thing is, the problem with that kind of stuff is it continues to go in the same direction where more and more things become forbidden and toxic, to the point where, you know, the Elon Musk joking around about my pronouns are prosecute Fauci. Jimmy Kimmel made a tweet back to him. He said, your pronouns are ass and hole, which is pretty funny. But then...
Did he really?
Yes. And so then I read that, and there was people saying, please don't joke about pronouns. It's transphobic to joke about pronouns. So they were chiding him for participating in a joke about pronouns.
As a result, Kimmel, who prides himself on being a liberal, once alienated his own woke audience by making jokes about pronouns. Rogan pointed out that this wasn't just hypocritical, it was genuinely harmful. You can't claim to champion a cause and then mock it whenever it's convenient, especially if you're supposed to be a representative of that movement. Sure, the jokes were aimed at Elon Musk, but Kimmel had plenty of other options. Instead, he chose to ridicule the very thing he claims to support. Let's move on with the video.
Yeah, he was doing it too.
Yeah. No, he was being accused of joking about it too.
So they were upset at him, even though he was attacking the appropriate person. He was doing it in a manner which is also construed as being transphobic. Like they were saying that his tweet is transphobic.
Do you think that was, in that case, do you think that's him or a writer? Can't you tell?
Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah.
No, it's him, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
good. That's a good one.
He's a comic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, he used to host the Man Show. I mean, he's done some pretty outrageous back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, for hee-hees and haw-haws.
No, that's a good joke on top of a good joke.
Yeah.
The Man Show, a rock and roll comedy series known for its edgy humor and fearless social mockery, was co-hosted by Jimmy Kimmel. At the time, Kimmel wasn't promoting politics or bowing to any ideology. He was simply chasing pure, unfiltered entertainment. The show's audacious, outrageous content helped him build a strong reputation in comedy and amass a devoted fan base. His growing fame eventually led to a spot on ABC in his own late-night talk show. But here's the kicker. Today's Kimmel would barely recognize the man he once was. He's now far more focused on politics than on the comedy that made him famous.
I had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist thought bubble. He is in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood. And, you know, and I think also, you know, he famously, there's some videos of him in blackface, and those came out, and he had apologized for them, and I think he took that hit and like really doubled down the other direction. I mean, that's just speculation, but he, you know, now is a guy that goes after people like Elon Musk.
I agree with Rogan on this point, especially considering the long list of policies and ideas Jimmy Kimmel has championed. He has devoted himself to promoting gender fluidity, vaccines, and even the controversial notion of biological men competing in women's sports. Kimmel consistently positions himself as a progressive advocate, weaving woke talking points into his commentary. The result? It's no longer funny. What was once late-night entertainment has morphed into a performance of social responsibility. Ironically, he now lectures the very audience that once laughed at his comedy.
Because he's willing to put people on with uncomfortable opinions, and he's releasing people that were banned from Twitter because of things that they had said. He's like, as long as you haven't done anything illegal, I'll let you back on.
Oh, yeah.
So he's doing a lot of that. So it's a lot of people are upset by that because then they think, well, you're platforming bigots and hateful people, and it's a weird conversation.
And this highlights the clear hypocrisy on the left. They are eager to ban, censor, and deplatform anyone who dares say something that makes them uncomfortable. Not long ago, Jimmy Kimmel was at the forefront of this movement. He didn't just silently encourage it, he actively joined in, lobbing insults and mocking Elon Musk for having the audacity to defend free speech. Now, Kimmel and his progressive allies position themselves as the honorable defenders of free expression. The irony is glaring. When the tables are turned, the same people who once criticized others for speaking out suddenly claim victimhood. Naturally, Rogan finds this duplicity intolerable and calls it exactly what it is: disregarding reasonable norms in the name of moral superiority.
Each believer, I think the way to counter someone's inappropriate, even someone like Kanye West that says ridiculous anti-Semitic things, the way to counter that is to counter that with more thoughtful opinions on what he's saying and point out that what he's saying is inaccurate in many ways, hurtful in many ways. Like, point it out, like, talk, let's have discussion, don't silence.
Kimmel is now facing the consequences of the seeds he and the woke crowd planted years ago. During a period of widespread censorship, he was among those who mocked and silenced anyone who questioned progressive ideology. He actively participated in efforts to deplatform, discredit, and silence dissenting voices rather than defending the universal right to free speech regardless of political beliefs. Now, Kimmel finds himself in a precarious position within the very society he helped shape. Perhaps he wouldn't be in this predicament if he had stood up for free expression in the past, even when it was controversial. As Rogan points out, you can't suddenly shout when the hammer falls after years of silence.
Chilled. Are you in fear for the future of comedy and free speech?
Well, Will, first of all, I woke up this morning to the incredible shock that apparently TV shows are not guaranteed in our Constitution. I mean, wow. So that was tough to swallow. First,
Rob Schneider may navigate chaos with humor, but when it comes to free speech, he's right on point. Especially in the workplace, the First Amendment doesn't always apply. The exchange of ideas between an employer and employee isn't unrestricted. Since employees represent a brand, private companies have the right to set boundaries on what can and cannot be said. Breaking those rules can result in termination or other consequences. This is exactly the situation Jimmy Kimmel faced. He assumed his words would carry no real repercussions, but employers enforce their own standards. Schneider is correct. The Constitution protects free speech from government interference, not corporate oversight. Kimmel's missteps backfired, proving that Hollywood remains far from a true free speech haven.
Waiting for the left, the liberals, to get outraged about Roseanne getting fired for her free speech. And then I'm also waiting, I've been waiting a long time for the left and the Democrats, especially the Democrats on Capitol Hill, for the Twitter files that released that the Biden-Harris administration was actually using the government to pressure Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and especially Twitter to actually censor actual Americans through government pressure.
Unfortunately, don't hold your breath waiting for the left to criticize the Biden-Harris administration for pressuring ABC to fire Rosenbar. They simply have no framework for accountability. Instead, they act as if it never happened, ignoring the clear political interference. It wasn't limited to ABC. The Biden-Harris team also leaned on major social media platforms, pressuring them to silence critics and curb free expression under the guise of safety. At the time, the left applauded these measures, defending censorship as beneficial. Yet now, they claim to champion free speech while pointing fingers at others. Utterly hypocritical. Justice is upheld for some, while others are silenced. When the tide shifts, despotism appears. Rogan is right. You can't have it both ways.
Capitalist pressure is really important because what happens is you have to make money or you have to do something of value so that you can get something in return. Now, the interesting thing is it's false advertising because honestly, look, Jimmy Kimmel can be funny, and I don't mean to take anything away from that. But the fact of the matter, can you remember a political joke that went viral, what was something really funny of his? There was no attempt in humor at all in what he said. And as a matter of fact, it was a lie. Now, as you pointed to, Will, since the 1960s, you have to get a license to broadcast. This isn't Netflix, this isn't cable, this is broadcast TV.
In short, Jimmy Kimmel was no longer worth the investment. The numbers backed it up. His ratings were plummeting. Sponsors who had once supported him began to voice concern, realizing they weren't getting the returns they expected. Television, after all, depends on sponsorship. Some even threatened to boycott ABC entirely, citing frustration with Kimmel's increasingly divisive and outrageous commentary. It wasn't just about weak comedy. The business side was suffering. Kimmel's careless attacks on the MAGA movement, which represents roughly half the nation, were a critical misstep. Alienating such a large audience was a recipe for career trouble. On stage, Kimmel had turned his platform into a political soapbox, driving away both viewers and sponsors. Ultimately, ABC had no reason to continue investing in a show that was failing on every front.
You have to, the airwaves are owned by the public. And to get that license, you have to be in the interest, like you said, of the public. And so that's why when there's a news van parked in the white zone, they don't get a ticket, because they are there to present news, to inform the public in the public interest. So what happens is 25% originally was supposed to be the news to inform it, just to get that license. So when you absolutely lie to the public, then you are no longer in the public interest, like Jimmy Kimmel did the other night. Mislead and lie, and actually was something dangerous. So with the FCC chairman, he didn't say that he was going to pull the license. He was going to give them a warning and ask for an apology, if what I understood on the Benny Johnson show. And so that's not the government doing.
Jimmy Kimmel is fully responsible for the consequences of his own actions. He turned a public broadcast, a platform meant to entertain millions, into a weapon against the mega audience. It wasn't funny, and it certainly wasn't serving the public. It was self-serving, plain and simple. Kimmel used his late-night show to push whichever political cause or message suited him at the moment, rather than focusing on comedy. The audience didn't sign up for political propaganda. They tuned in for entertainment. By using a national platform to air personal grievances, he alienated half the country and eroded his own credibility. In prioritizing politics over his true value as a comedian, Kimmel damaged both his show and his reputation. Ultimately, he wasn't defeated by outside forces. It was the result of his own choices and his obsession with advancing politics over comedy.
6 different stations around the country say we're no longer airing this. It's because they heard from their consumers. They heard from their customers. And they said, that's it. We're not doing it. And so Nexstar, who's a great guy over there, Sean Compton, said, that's it. He's the CEO, and said, when we have complaints like this, and none of the channels, 246, because I'm sorry, it's not just LA and New York. There are people in between who have a real sense of decency, and who realize that what you had here was you had someone who wanted to have conversations and debate.
Here's what's truly remarkable. All 246 television stations agreed that Jimmy Kimmel's remarks were inappropriate. That kind of consensus is rare and highly significant in the broadcasting world. These aren't just random voices. These stations know their audiences, understand public sentiment, and have a vested interest in the outcome. Yet despite this overwhelming agreement, a handful of woke media outlets are scrambling to spin Kimmel's irresponsible comments as acceptable. It's almost laughable. Should we really assume a few politically motivated sources know better than the 246 stations that got it right? The numbers don't lie. The facts are clear. The vast majority of people still view Kimmel's remarks as harmful and offensive, regardless of the woke defenses. The case is closed and the verdict is clear. We'll wrap up today's video here. If you enjoyed this content and want to receive notifications for new uploads, be sure to click the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.